you tell us your name? And we are live all over again one more time. It's been 2 weeks since we were here last, and we appreciate y'all being. We are live on Facebook and on YouTube. So I hope you're checking it out there. If you're watching live, thank you. If you're watching the recording later, then thank you, thank you, thank you. We appreciate all the views. And speaking of views, and we're on YouTube, please like and subscribe. You know, the little like button down there
And
the subscribe button. Huh?
And sign up for notifications.
Yes, please do. So that way you won't ever miss Strange Journeys and you can join us on our journeys. But anyway, we're going to delve into a strange one today, and we're going to get into that in a little bit. But first, welcome the ETs. My beautiful wife, Lynn, right next to me. And then on the other side of that is Beth. And down below is Christine and Dagny. All right. What's new in everybody's world? Anything exciting going on?
Too much. I'd like a boring day now.
Christine, Beth, anything? Lynn?
Just work, and more work.
Yeah, but we get
more work.
We get to talk about Black-Eyed Kids today.
Yay.
So, all right. Well, like I said, remember, if you're watching on YouTube, please like, subscribe, and sign up for notifications. And also, if you would like to help us and be a part of what we're doing here, we are on Patreon, patreon.com/Strange Journeys, and help us out by being a patron. We have 4 different levels. Strange Pals is $3 a month. Strange Buddies is $5 a month. Strange Friends is $10 a month. And Strange Partners is $25 a month, and you get something special for each one. And we're getting some feedback from somewhere, guys. Let's remember to keep our mics muted if we can. That's what happens when you go live. You just never know what's going to happen. And we are live, folks. And even the pre-recording, we don't go back and edit anything. It is what it is. You get what you get. So thank y'all for being here anyway. But anyway, if you can help us out on Patreon, become a patron, we'd certainly appreciate it. There will be special videos for the patrons that we'll be doing. And also, you get stickers and a special mug at a special level. You'll find all about that when you go to patreon.com/Strange Journeys. All right. And visit us on Facebook at our page, facebook.com/Strange Journeys, and also our 4 Strange Friends. That's a new cover photo we put up this week for Strange Friends. And you got some of the things we cover in there. So let me ask everybody, are y'all ready to start? Huh?
Let's do it. Let's do it.
All right, let's do it. And we're back again live with you guys. Thank y'all for being with us. As you know, what do we do every week? Right after the intro, what do we do every week? Does anybody remember?
The sighting.
Yeah. We got a latest sighting. Now, this one you're going to have to watch close. And I put a little intro and a little closing on it, but I didn't edit the video. And when I did, no sound came through for some reason. I thought I had the sound turned up, but I didn't. And so instead of going back and fixing it, we're just getting the raw video today. But anyway, here's our sighting. Let me read this. This was posted on YouTube just a couple of days ago by Google Map Bizid. That's his name. I think I'm pronouncing it correctly. Google Map Bizid. He says, UFO sighting Tuesday, the 1st of September, 10 p.m. 2020. Suddenly we noticed some strange things moving around in the sky. 2 different objects. In a moment, we thought it would be a normal drone, but after focusing on it, they wanted to make sure it was some kind of unidentified object. So what do you think it is? All right. You see the apartment building on the left there? Look just to the right of the top corner. You'll see a little light. Now, at first, it looks like, okay, well, that's just a star or an airplane. But keep your eyes on that little white dot. All right, see it starting to move back and forth. When I first saw this, I was like, wow, there's nothing there. And then all of a sudden, it moved. And then it stopped and moved again. I don't know if that's fog or smoke. But, I mean, could it be a drone? I mean, it's obviously not a star if it's moving back and forth. And then down over to the right of the little white building, there's another one you can keep your eye on too. But I don't think it does much. But that one up top. Now, here's the thing about Google Map Bizid. He only has about 4 or 5 videos on his channel. And this is the only one that is anything like this. In other words, he's not just putting up videos saying, you know, here's this sighting. You know.
That's kind of convincing.
Well,
I've noticed also that when we read encounters,
mhm.
you can almost kind of tell by the wording when someone's actually recalling what they saw or when they're just embellishing.
You're right.
You can almost psychologically tell if someone's recounting something traumatic or exciting or, you know, in the way they write it or say it.
Exactly. And I've noticed that before, and especially as we get into the Black-Eyed Kids, it's one of those things where, you know, you can almost tell by the way it's written whether, like you said, they're actually recalling or making something up. But the thing I liked about this video was that little white light. You know, at first you're like, oh, there's nothing, you know, there's nothing to this. It's just a star. And then I saw it move and stopped, and then it moved and stopped again. I'm like, okay, maybe it's a drone, you know, but I don't know. I mean, it had some things that made me feel like it wasn't a drone. So I'm not sure about that one.
I don't know. I thought it was like Venus or Mars, and the clouds were making it look like it was moving. To
Well,
me,
it could.
so
I mean, that's a possibility. But then once they zoomed in, kind of the building that it was, you know, up in the sky next to just didn't really change perspective. So, and at one point it was over the building, and then it was back over beside the building. But you're right; it may have been perspective. That may be all it was perspective. Christy, what are you?
I almost want to credit it as real just because it's so terrible. It seems like you can't catch it very beautifully on a video when you're not expecting to.
What's that old that joke that's been going around about Bigfoot? You know, here's Bigfoot. Hurry, get your blurry camera. You know, or
Yeah, totally.
have a UFO sighting. Get the blurry camera.
Well, iPhones are perfect for that. I love my iPhone, but they're not worth a darn at night for anything.
No,
You cannot take pictures of stars.
no.
Although
mean,
the
I-
new iPhone-
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's like a couple of years ago, I saw something, and it was multicolored lights in the sky. And we were living in Theodore at that time, and had a big yard, and I just happened to see it off the front porch, and so I walked off the porch away from the house lights, and I could see it clearly, and it was too high to see, but it was too low to be a star, if you know what I mean. If you understand what I'm saying. But it had blue and yellow and red and orange lights. And so I tried to get my phone camera. That didn't do anything. I went and got our nice Nikon camera or whatever it is. And that didn't do anything either. But what I did do was go in on Facebook and just made a post. This is what I saw. Before that, though, I did go back and check the ISS, and the ISS was not, the I'm getting tongue tied. The International Space Station was nowhere in that area of the sky. It would have been further north. This was headed to the southwest. And then I put a post on Facebook, describing this. And then a couple of people from down in the Mississippi area commented on it that they had seen something similar down there. And then a friend of mine who was a pilot commented on it, saying that he had that in the aviation industry, some of those colors don't exist. So who knows? And we got Christina chiming in. Christina is Kent's wife, and she's saying hi, Tom, and hi, Lynn. Hi, Christina. Thank you for being here. We got Christine on the show and Christina in the comments. So, yeah, her husband Kent that has been with us on 2 shows already. Guess we're going to have to make him an honorary ET. He's on as much as some of you guys. I'm kidding. Anyway, all right. But in that video, that'll be loaded up later on today into our Facebook sightings video page playlist. On the Facebook page, we have the different playlists of the different things, the episodes and the sightings videos and things like that. And we'll discuss some more. If you have any thoughts on that video, please write them at the bottom or commented on it when we post it on Facebook. All right, guys, we're going to start heading on into the show now. But first, one of our sponsors is, like I've said before, our sponsors are the ETs and what we do in the extracurricular. And Andrea and her husband, John, have the Grave Hunters Society, and we just lost Lynn. I don't know what's going on there, but they have a new merch site, and so we're letting them be a sponsor on our show this week. Here we go. Okay, something's wrong there. I don't know what it is. That video's not working very well. I couldn't hear anything. I heard the other one fine, the intro. I heard the intro video fine. So that's the beauty of live
Technology.
Yep.
I wonder how some of these work conferences go.
Who knows?
Dude,
All right, Christina said
fun. Oh my
couldn't
gosh.
say very long. Yeah. Well, I mean, hey, we haven't had any serious glitches since the very first show, so if we have a glitch every now and then, it's going to happen. So,
It's kind of the fun part.
yeah. Like, the deer in headlights. Oh no, what do we do now? Okay. All right. There's been an unusual phenomenon occurring more often in the last 25 years or so, though there is thought that it goes back much, much further. The sightings of young children with black voids where their eyes should be. This paranormal sensation has captured the attention of enthusiasts like us around the world. Now we're getting noise again, guys. Who's making noise? There we go. Oh, it was Beth. All right. No one seems to know where these kids come from and what they really want or why they have black eyes. So stick around with us for a while as we journey down this extremely strange and dark passageway, the world of the black-eyed kids. Oh, where'd I put it? Don't beware the black-eyed kids. All right. And a typical black-eyed kid experience, we're going to get into some stories, so just hang on. I just want to lay it out first about what typically happens. There's a knock at your door or car window. There's two children standing there, innocent looking. They ask you for help for the phone. Can we use the phone to call somebody for a drink of water? It's cold out. Can we get warm? They need a ride. And the witness, the person that they're contacting, feels a deep feeling of dread and bone-chilling terror. And if that person decides or doesn't respond quickly or actively enough, then these kids seem to get angry and agitated. If there's any slightly hesitation. And they've been described as being children from toddler to teens as far as their ages. One story I even heard was there was a baby in a stroller. So anywhere from, say, 2 to 14, 15 years old. And they're always dressed oddly, out-of-date clothing. And they normally tend to be well-spoken, not like a normal kid with hemming and hawing when they talk to an adult. But more often they're very well-spoken, but at times using archaic language. Like I heard one say, instead of asking to use the phone, they asked to use the telegraph. So,
That's an interesting fact right there.
Yeah, that was odd. I found it odd because they, you would think, well, we'll get into this in a minute. We got some stories coming up. But they always have those dull black eyes. Now, some of the pictures we have show, shining black eyes. But from what I've picked up, that they're really more like no eyes at all. Just they open their eyelids and there's just a black void, is the way it's been described. Now, this all started in the internet age. Back in about 1994, I think it was published in 1996 on a message board, an internet message board by Brian Bethel, a journalist in Abilene, Texas. Now, instead of just telling you his story, I decided to go back. I went into this archive. It's webarchive.org. Back to the original post that he made. This is in his own words when he wrote it originally. He said, my internet service provider used to have offices in a shopping center before they moved to their lush accommodations elsewhere. There was a drop box at the original location. We've all seen those drop boxes where you can leave your payment. He said the monthly bill was due, and he said there, but for the grace of the net, I went. So he was sitting there late at night, about 9:30 p.m. He said he left his house at about 9:30, and it's about 10 or 15 minutes or so to downtown. And he said right next to my internet provider's location was one of those $1.50 movie theaters. They used to have one here in Mobile. I think it was just called the Dollar Movie. I think we've all had those. But he says at the time, the place was featuring the masterwork of modern film. He gets a little sarcastic in this, okay? The masterwork of modern film, Mortal Kombat. I don't think I've ever seen that movie.
It was pretty good, actually. I was,
was it?
surprised.
Okay. Well, this obviously wasn't when it came out because it's at a dollar theater. The dollar theater was for movies that had already gone through their first run. And this was just them trying to collect more revenue, which they did. He says, I drove by the theater on the way to the center proper, and I pulled into an empty parking space. Using the glow of the marquee to write out my check, I was startled to hear a knock on the driver's window of my car. I looked over and saw two children staring at me from the street. He says, I need to describe them with the feature, so you can guess what it was, that I didn't realize until about halfway through the conversation. Okay, I'm confused at what he's saying there. He said both appeared to be in that semi-mystical stage of life children get into when you can't exactly tell their age. Both were boys, and it was my initial impression that they were somewhere between 10 and 14. Boy number 1 was the spokesman. Boy number 2 didn't speak during the entire conversation, at least not in words. Boy number 1 was slightly taller than his companion, wearing a pullover, hooded shirt with a sort of gray checked pattern and jeans. I couldn't see his shoes. His skin was olive colored and had curly medium length brown hair. He exuded an air of quiet confidence. Boy number 2 had pale skin with a trace of freckles. His primary characteristic seems to be looking around nervously. He was dressed in a similar manner to his companion, but his pullover was a light green color. His hair was sort of pale orange. They didn't appear to be related, at least directly. Oh, great, I thought. They're going to hit me up for money. And then the air changed. I've explained this before, but for the benefit of any new lurkers out there, right before I experienced something strange, there's a change in perception that comes about, which I describe in the above manner. It's basically enough time to know it's too late. So there I was, filling out my check in the car, which was still running, and in a sudden panic over the appearance of the little two boys. I was confused, but an overwhelming sense of fear and unearthliness rushed in nonetheless. The spokesman smiled, and the sight, for some inexplicable reason, chilled my blood. I could feel the fight or flight responses kicking in. Something I knew instinctively was not right, but I didn't know what it could possibly be. I rolled down the window very, very slightly and asked, "Yes?" The spokesman smiled again, broader this time. His teeth were very, very white. "Hey, mister, what's up? We have a problem," he said. His voice was that of a young man, but his diction, quiet, calm, and something I still couldn't put my finger on, made my desire to flee even greater. Hey, Donnie gets to join us. Is Donnie going?
Hey,
Hey, Donnie. I'll pick up the story here in just a second.
man, y'all.
Hey, Donnie. Glad you made it, buddy. All right, I'm going to pick up the story again. He says, you see, this is the kid again. You see, my friend and I want to see the films, but we forgot our money, he continued. We need to go to our house and get it. Want to help us out? Okay, he's a journalist, and he says they're required to talk to lots of people, and that includes children. He says, I've seen and spoken to lots of them. Here's how that usually goes. Mister, can I see the camera? I won't break it or anything, I promise. My dad has a camera, and he lets me hold it sometimes. You've heard these kids, right? So what he's saying is this is not a normal action and mode of conversation for a little kid. He says, in short, little kids are usually apologetic. People generally teach children that when they talk to adults, they're usually bothering them for one reason or another, and they should at least be polite. But this kid in no way was fitting that mold. His command of language was incredible, and he showed no signs of fear. He spoke as if my help was a foregone conclusion. When he grinned, it was as if he was trying to say, I know something, and you're not going to like it. But the only way you're going to find out what it is will be to do what I say. Well, was the best reply I could offer. Now, here's where it starts to get strange. The quiet companion looked at the spokesperson with a mixture of confusion and guilt on his face. He seemed in some ways shocked, not with his friend's brusque manner, but that I didn't just immediately open the door. He eyed me nervously. The spokesman seemed a little bit perturbed too. I still was registering something wrong with them both. Come on, mister, the spokesman said again, smooth as silk. Car salesman could learn something from this kid. Now we just want to go to our house, and we're just two little boys. That really scared me. Something in the tone and diction again sent off alarm bells. My mind was frantically trying to process what it was perceiving about the two figures that was wrong. Was all I could manage. I felt myself digging my fingernails into the steering wheel. What movie were you going to see? I asked finally. Mortal Kombat, of course, the spokesman said. The silent one nodded in affirmation, standing a few paces behind. Oh, I said. I stole a quick glance at the marquee and at the clock in my car. Mortal Kombat had already been playing for an hour, the last show of the evening. The silent one looked increasingly nervous. I think he saw my glances and suspected that I might be detecting something was not above board. Come on, mister, let us in. We can't get in your car until you do, you know. The spokesman said this so soothingly. Just let us in and we'll be gone before you know it. We'll go to our mother's house. We locked eyes. To my horror, I realized that my hand had already strayed toward the door lock, which had been engaged, and was in the process of opening it. I pulled it away, probably a bit too violently, but it did force me to look away from the children. I turned back. I offered weakly, and then my mind snapped into sharp focus. For the first time, I noticed their eyes. They were coal black, no pupil, no iris, just two staring orbs reflecting the red and white light of the marquee. At that point, I know my expression betrayed me. The silent one had a look of horror on his face and a combination that seemed to indicate A, the impossible had just happened, and B, we've been found out. The spokesman, on the other hand, wore a mask of anger. His eye glittered brightly in the half-light. Come on, mister, he said. We won't hurt you. You have to let us in. We don't have a gun. That last statement scared the living hell out of me because at that point, by his tone, he was plainly saying, we don't need a gun. He noticed my hand shooting down toward the gear shift. The spokesman's final words contained an anger that was complete and whole, and yet contained in some respects a tone of panic. We can't come in unless you tell us it's okay. Let us in. I ripped the car into reverse. Thank goodness no one was coming up behind me, and tore out of the parking lot. I noticed the boys in my peripheral vision and stole a quick glance back. They were gone. The sidewalk by the theater was deserted. I drove home in a heightened state of panic. Had anyone attempted to stop me, I would have run on through and faced the consequences later. I bolted into my house, scanning all around, including the sky. What did I see? Maybe nothing more than some kids looking for a ride and some really funky contacts. Yeah, right. A friend suggested they were vampires. What with that old let us in bit and my compelled response to open the door. That and we'll go see our mother thing. I'm still not sure what they were, but there's an epilogue. We're going to share the rest of his story later. How many of you had heard Brian Bethel's story before or read it?
I read it only because you brought the subject up. This is my first time hearing about it. I've been reading about this subject for the last 2 weeks, and it's new to me.
Yeah. Well, supposedly, this is where it started in the modern era. Now, he is still alive. He still talks about this. He's had other paranormal experiences, but he's not out there writing books. He's still a journalist and just writing stories. He's not focusing on the paranormal. This was just something that happened to him and he wanted to share. And other people have, tried to say it's bogus and there's nothing to it and yada, yada, yada. But he keeps standing by his story. I heard an interview just the other day from back in 2017 where he was being interviewed again. And like I said, he doesn't put out Black Eyed Kids books. He continues to be a journalist writing about mundane things, but he still stands by his story to this day. Any thoughts? Donnie, I know you got something to say. But you're muted. Let me see if I can unmute you, Donnie. Okay, you got to unmute yourself.
Check 1, 2, 3. Is this mic
There
on?
we go. You are on.
No, as far as
Donnie,
as far as Black Eyed Kids are concerned, and not really kids. My ex-wife,
oh,
her family owns one of the biggest barbecue joints here in Mobile.
yeah.
And she went because they had some big disputes about who did what and why they did it and how. And when she met with them, they sat. And she kind of got onto them for the way they were doing her father's business. And she said that the oldest sister, her eyes just went totally black. And she told Bonnie to leave. And Bonnie wouldn't leave. So she got up, and when she turned around and walked out, she had those black coal eyes.
Wow.
So, and
So,
that's how I know about
They
it.
weren't that way? They weren't that way before?
No, they were just right until Bonnie started getting into an argument about the way they were doing the business. And that's kind of where Black Eyed Peas come from. I mean, Black Eyed Children.
You know,
I've been the adults.
I've been looking at the similarities between the Navajo skinwalkers and the Black-Eyed Children, and that's really one of the things I thought was interesting about that right there is that she switched to it, and that's more like what they're talking about.
Yeah,
Like a possession.
That is odd. I haven't heard that part of it where somebody's eyes actually changed. Now I have heard that people didn't really notice it till later on in the interaction, and then so maybe they are changing. Maybe when you don't let them in, then
They just went dead black, dude.
yeah. I mean, like I said, when the kids are standing there at the door and you don't let them in and you don't respond to them, maybe that's when they turn into whatever it could
They
be.
show
Well,
their true evil.
yes. Well, Dagny, you just mentioned you were looking into some of the similarities. What's some of the stuff you dug up as far as Native American legends in relation to black-eyed kids?
Well, I mean, I've seen a lot of people kind of looking into this subject, and a lot of them want to relate the skinwalkers from the Navajo stories to this as a possibility. As far as, that man was cited in 1996 writing that journalist wrote that about his story, and that's one of the first real black-eyed children encounters we have written.
Yeah.
But then if you look back into Navajo culture, they have a folklore about the skinwalker, and what that is
Right.
they tell about this thing that is created by humans. They're like witches, so a shaman has to initiate a person into being one of these things,
Wow.
and it can only be done in a very like dark and evil way. It's
Really?
never for a good reason. It's kind of like using black magic, and the Navajos don't believe that it's a good idea to do it.
Right.
And so what they think is that shamans will play with the same powers that they have for bad reasons.
Right.
And out of that comes these things they call skinwalkers, and they can switch into any animal that they want. And they call them skinwalkers because a lot of times they like to wear the animal that's their favorite, such as a wolf because they want agility, or
Right.
a cheetah because they want speed, or depending on what their goal is and what they're after. But generally their goals are to continue killing, that each one of their killings continues their power as a skinwalker, and they have to keep killing to keep their power. And what they gain from becoming a skinwalker is that they can disguise themselves into any animal or person,
Uh-huh.
which they mention that more like a possession, like they can take over another person. They're not real clear about that, but the the way that they go about it is specifically for some kind of way to destroy people, cause an illness,
Right.
a death, or and there is a property actually in where is it? Utah, I believe.
You talking about Skinwalker Ranch?
That's what I'm talking about. New Mexico. No. I'm sorry. The Skinwalker Ranch is a property that someone bought it and then soon sold.
We may have to do a story on Skinwalker Ranch one day. They
Just because that's where the Native Americans used to they used to practice a lot of their ceremonies there, and one of the things that they did there was they had a mass witch hunt to kill all the skinwalkers there. It's
wow.
a really interesting little tidbit that they feel the land is cursed because they
Right.
tried to get rid of them there. And so the similarities between the two is they really have that negative feeling when you you
Right.
can feel a negativity from them. They seem to be able to control another human. Some of their supernatural powers, according to their legends, are that they can read thoughts and control actions of other people. And
Hmm.
but I have not once come across them having black eyes.
Right.
All
Well, I
I
mean,
come
it's
across is red eyes, yellow eyes, or eyes that look like an animal's eyes.
mhm.
And horses' eyes look black. I mean, Maybe that's what they're describing as the animal eyes.
It could be. But you mentioned, the ability to read thoughts. That's one of the things, and I think Brian Bethel was kind of hinting at that with his story, that he felt what they
When
were
when he
suggesting.
was reaching for the lock,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, and it was like almost like he felt them saying, don't do that or whatever.
Hmm.
That he felt their thoughts.
Hmm.
Cool.
Well, that was the reason why these Navajos say that they would become these witches, is so that they could have those supernatural powers and be able to
Right.
control people. But it was always bad intention. So
Exactly.
it could be the same thing. I don't know.
Right.
I'm confused about the eye thing, but they definitely mention the eyes in all the stories and not to look into them.
Exactly. Yeah, I mean I'm glad you mentioned that, because that's the thing. They warned of not looking into their eyes, and that's one thing when you make from what I picked up, when you make eye contact with these things, that's when that connection is made and the fear settles in.